You have 4 children, at least you think you do. You watch them run off to play by the river, and later, when they come back, you feel a flicker of unease. Something is wrong. Someone is missing. But here's the strange part. You can't say how many are missing because you don't have a word for 4. You don't have a word for 3 either. You have a word for 1. You have a word for 2. And after that, you have a word that just means many. So you can't count your children, not the way we would. And yet, somehow, you know one of them isn't there. You feel the gap. This is the strange, fascinating world of the human mind before numbers existed. A world we all actually started life in, and one that some cultures still live in today. So how did ancient humans handle a world without numbers? How did they trade, track time, share food fairly, and build things with no way to count past 2? The answer reveals something genuinely surprising about your own brain, and about what numbers really are. Here's the first thing that breaks most people's brains. Numbers are not natural. They are a technology, an invention, something humans built, exactly like the wheel or the written word. We tend to assume numbers are just out there, a basic feature of reality that any thinking creature would obviously grasp. But that's not true. The abstract idea of 7, a precise quantity that applies equally to 7 rocks, 7 days, 7 people, or 7 stars, is a genuine human invention. And for most of our history, we didn't have it. We know this because of a remarkable clue that still exists today. There are languages spoken right now by people living in remote parts of the world that have almost no number words at all. Some have only words for 1, 2, and many. A few, astonishingly, appear to have no exact number words whatsoever, just vague terms for a small amount and a lot. And the people who speak these languages are not less intelligent in any way. Their brains are identical to yours. They simply live in a culture that never invented the tool of counting, because their way of life never urgently needed it, which tells us something profound. Numbers aren't hardwired into the human mind. They're software we install, and someone, long ago, had to write that software from scratch. But wait, if ancient humans couldn't count, how did that mother know one of her children was missing? How does anyone function without numbers? The answer is that you are born with something deeper and older than counting. Scientists call it the number sense, and it's a raw instinct your brain has whether you've learned math or not. It works in 2 ways. The first is that you can instantly recognize very small quantities without counting them at all. Look at 1 dot, 2 dots, 3 dots, maybe 4, and you just know how many there are immediately without counting. This is called subitizing, and even babies can do it. It's why 1, 2, and sometimes 3 are the number words that show up in nearly every language. Those aren't really counting. They're just naming things your brain perceives directly. The second part of the number sense is an approximate feel for larger amounts. You can look at a tree with a lot of fruit and another with only a little and instantly know which has more, without counting a single piece. You can glance at 2 herds of animals and sense which is bigger. This works with people, animals, food, everything. It's rough, it's fuzzy, but it's fast, and it's incredibly useful. This is what our ancestors ran their entire lives on. Not precise numbers, but this deep, instinctive sense of more and less. Bigger and smaller, enough and not enough. And here's the amazing part. You still use it constantly. When you glance at a parking lot and think, it's pretty full, or look at your plate and feel, that's not enough food, you are using the exact same ancient number sense your ancestors used long before the word 12 existed. So the instinct handles a lot. But eventually, life throws you a problem the number sense simply cannot solve. A problem where roughly more or roughly less isn't good enough, where you need to be exact. Imagine you own a flock of sheep, 50, 60, maybe more. Every evening they come back to the pen, and every evening you need to know, did they all come back? Or did one wander off? Or get taken by a predator? Your fuzzy number sense is useless here. A flock of 59 sheep looks exactly like a flock of 60 to the naked eye. You cannot feel the difference of one missing animal in a crowd that large. This is the kind of moment that forced humans to get clever, because you don't actually need to count the sheep to solve this. You need something even simpler and more brilliant. You need to match them. And this idea, matching one thing to another thing, is the secret doorway that leads all the way to mathematics. Here's the trick, and it is genuinely one of the great ideas in human history. even though it seems almost stupidly simple. Every morning, as your sheep leave the pen, you drop one small pebble into a pouch for each sheep that walks past. One sheep, one pebble. One sheep, one pebble. You're not counting. You're not thinking 59, 60. You're just pairing each animal with a stone. By the end, your pouch holds a pile of pebbles that is an exact copy of your flock, not a number, a model. Then, in the evening, you reverse it. As each sheep returns, you take one pebble out of the pouch. One sheep, one pebble removed. If the last sheep comes home and your pouch is empty, perfect. Everyone's back. But if the flock is all in the pen and you still have one pebble left in your hand, you know with total certainty that exactly one sheep is missing. You don't know the number. You don't need to. The leftover pebble is the missing sheep. This is called one-to-one correspondence, and it is the true foundation of counting. It's the realization that you can represent a group of one kind of thing with a group of another kind of thing. Sheep become pebbles, and once you can do that, you can track, store, and check quantities far beyond what your instinct could ever handle without a single number word. Pebbles are great, but you don't always have a pouch of them handy. So humans reached for the most convenient counting tool in existence, the one you're using to hold your device right now, your hands. Fingers are a perfect, portable, always available counting device, and humans everywhere seized on them. And this had a fascinating, permanent consequence. Look at our most common counting systems. Why do we count in tens? Why does the whole modern world run on a base 10 number system? Because we have 10 fingers. That's it. Our entire mathematical civilization, all the way up to computers, carries the fingerprint, literally, of ancient humans counting on their hands. Some cultures went further and turned the whole body into a counting machine. There are traditional systems where you count not just fingers, but knuckles, wrists, elbows, shoulders, ears, eyes, and nose, touching each body part in a fixed order to represent larger and larger numbers. The body became a living number line, a shared map that everyone in the group agreed on, so that a quantity could be communicated just by pointing to a place on the body. Think about how clever that is. With no writing and no number words, they created a physical, visible, agreed-upon way to represent exact amounts, using the one tool every single person is born carrying. The next leap was to make the count last. Pebbles can spill. Fingers reset when you put your hands down. Body counting vanishes the moment you stop. Humans needed a way to freeze a quantity in place, to record it. So they started making marks, a notch cut into a stick, a scratch on a bone, a line scraped into a cave wall, each mark standing for one thing in that same beautiful one-to-one correspondence. One notch, one day. One notch, one animal killed. One notch, one trade owed. Some of the oldest possible artifacts of this kind are ancient bones covered in deliberate, organized rows of notches, tens of thousands of years old. We can't always be certain what each one was counting. Days, moons, animals, we can only guess. But the intention is unmistakable. Someone sat down and carefully carved a sequence of marks to keep track of something. They were recording a quantity, storing it outside their own head, so it wouldn't be forgotten. This is a breathtaking moment in human history, because a notched stick is more than a tally. It's information, held in an object that outlives the memory of the person who made it. It's the same fundamental idea that leads to accounting, to written records, and eventually to writing itself. Some researchers believe that the very first writing systems grew out of simple counting tokens used to track trade. In other words, writing may have been born from the need to count. Step back and look at what these humble tools unlocked, and it's staggering. Once you can count and record exact amounts, entirely new ways of living become possible. You can trade fairly across long distances. I will give you this many skins for that many baskets, with both sides able to check. You can track a calendar precisely, marking the days until the rains come or the exact turning of the seasons. You can store a surplus and know how much you have. You can organize large groups of people, divide food fairly, plan for the future in a way that vague instinct never allowed. Counting is one of the quiet foundations underneath everything we've built. Trade, money, calendars, science, engineering, astronomy, computers. Every single one of them rests on the ability to handle exact quantities. And all of it grew from that first ancient human who dropped a pebble in a pouch for each sheep, or cut a notch in a bone for each passing day. The people who invented counting weren't sitting in a classroom. They were shepherds, traders, hunters, and mothers, solving urgent, practical problems with whatever was in front of them: stones, fingers, sticks, and bones. Numbers weren't handed down from on high. They were built piece by piece out of the ordinary business of trying to keep track of a messy, complicated world. So here's the strange and beautiful truth to leave you with. You did not always know numbers. As a small child, before anyone taught you, you lived in that ancient world too. You could see 1 and 2, you had a fuzzy sense of more and less, and everything above that was just lots. The precise number mind you have now was slowly installed, word by word, tool by tool, exactly the way it was installed into our species over thousands of years. Every child relives the entire history of counting, from raw instinct to abstract number, in the first few years of life. And underneath all your education, that ancient number sense is still running. It's what lets you glance at a room and feel it's crowded, look at a night sky and sense it's full of stars, or know your plate is a little too empty, all without counting a thing. It is the oldest piece of mathematics in your mind, and you were born with it. Ancient humans didn't need numbers to be brilliant. They took a fuzzy animal instinct for more and less, and with nothing but pebbles, fingers, and notched bones, they slowly, patiently built one of the most powerful tools our species has ever created. Every time you count something, the change in your hand, the days on a calendar, the people at a table, you're using an invention tens of thousands of years in the making. It started with a missing sheep and a single pebble, and it built the modern world.